Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And for another win for common sense, boys and girls, after the massive pushback that Cracker Barrel got from all of its customers, from the entire culture out there, from the online commentators out there, they have not only switched their logo back, but they have purged all signs of the activism, spirit of the age garbage from their website and their company, boys and girls. And that is a beautiful thing. Although we haven't really had a chance to cover the Cracker Barrel stuff this week because there's just been so much other insanity going on, like there always is in the culture. Boys and girls, this has been a beautiful thing to see because at the end of the day, there were so many people out there that were so worried. They were so black-pilled that the spirit of the age would completely and totally take over absolutely everything. And it would completely and totally destroy so many of these wonderful institutions that have been around for so very long. But at the end of the day, boys and girls, this activism nonsense does not sell to a general audience out there. And when you spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and in some cases tens of billions of dollars trying to chase this modern audience, boys and girls, it turns out one way and one way only. Go woke, go broke. And that's exactly what happened to Cracker Barrel. And boys and girls, it changed their tune very quickly. So don't ever let anyone tell you that your voice does not matter. You are the paying customer. You should be deciding what direction these companies go, whether it be Hollywood or restaurants. You are the ones that decide where things head, not this insane spirit of the age, not this activism, and certainly not Lucifer himself, because once again, boys and girls, God and common sense win the day. Because as you can see over here from the headline at thatparkplace.com, Cracker Barrel's website erases DEI and pride messaging after logo U-turn. Yes, boys and girls, you'd be surprised with the way the stock market works and speculation, how much bad PR will get you and a major effect, especially in an era now where at least on some platforms we do still have some semblance of free speech and won't be canceled for pushing back against the spirit of the age and talking back against, or pushing back and talking about all of this insane ideology. And guess what, boys and girls? Your voices as fans and customers have been heard, and Cracker Barrel has changed its tune. So we're going to check this article from thatparkplace.com, getting all of the juicy details of exactly what has been erased and all of the evidence showing this, plus the full breakdown of everything that's gone on this week with Cracker Barrel. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,100. We're still on our way towards 100,000. I think we're sitting at like 2,172, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Let me know what you think about all this. Does it surprise you at all that Cracker Barrel actually changed their tune? Since the way we have seen this over the last couple of years, as the culture turns, more and more of these corporations decide to back off and get away from all of this insanity. Or were you one of those that fully believed for a very long time that none of this was ever going to change and all of these companies were going to collapse and this was what was going to be the future of our world? Are you surprised to see this? Are you happy to see that you were wrong about all of the black-pilledness and the doom and gloom? Does this give you hope for the future? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. And if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description down below. All right, from that Park Place and our dear sweet Marvin Montanaro, boys and girls, Cracker Barrel has made another major reversal, and this one goes deeper than logos and branding. And there was plenty of people that I heard too. Oh, well, they're just going to change the logo. They're just going to change their branding back. It's not going to change any of their DEI stuff inside of the company. Oh, contrarians. Oh, no. Happy days are here again. After outrage over its abandoned logo redesign, Cracker Barrel has now removed all DEI and pride-related pages from its website. Why? Because we've talked about it a million times. DEI should be DIE, because whenever you support this nonsense, that's exactly what happens to your company. What corporate leaders once framed as progress has now been taken down. The pages highlighting Cracker Barrel's DEI and pride initiatives disappeared this week, replaced by a more general cultural and belonging statement. These changes come on the heels of company logo reversal earlier this month and marks the second time in as many weeks that Cracker Barrel has rolled back high-profile corporate messaging after customer backlash. Yeah, that's completely and totally stupid CEO that, guess what, was probably nothing more than a DEI hire, and we've seen how well that worked. I mean, she's totally out there, been spouting all the progressive talking points, and I mean, man, the idiocy. Anybody that has ever worked in the restaurant business, and I did a couple of years of a stint doing that, and actually most of my high school career before I joined the military was working in the restaurant business in one form or another. And at the end of the day, the fact that she was trying to go out there and say as a reason as to why they should stick with the corporate logo is that all of her sycophant managers out there are going, oh, please, please, CEO, please give us your new rebrand. That was clearly all your idea because you're such a genius. Yeah, you literally tried rolling out the opinions of your ass kissers as an excuse for the reason why this was a good idea, despite all of the backlash you were getting? Yeah, me thinks you shouldn't listen to the yes men out there. Huh, makes me think that maybe a couple other corporations do the exact same thing. Anyway, out went old Uncle Herschel, the iconic figure who represented Cracker Barrel for generations. Out went the old country store tagline. In its place, a plain, sterile text design that looked like it was spit out by a Silicon Valley branding firm. I mean, literally. Does anybody else feel like this reminds them of when McDonald's decided to go into like its goth phase where now it's all like dark and gloomy and like they're like these 40-year-old people that have been stuck in a corporate world forever? Yeah, remember all those bright reds and yellows we used to have? Yeah. The response was immediate and brutal. Lawyer customers revolted. Conservative voices mocked the brand destruction, and the company's stock price took a hit. Because that's where you get them, boys and girls, because that is another reason why your voice matters. The stock market lives and breathes and dies on speculation, boys and girls. That's why the whole meme stock thing worked so well, because even small little investors in a large enough group can make a world of difference. And when you're getting a bunch of bad PR, all those speculators go, ho, 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 this isn't going to be good, and your stock tanks. So yes, your voice does matter. Days later, Cracker Barrel's leadership caved and announced that the logo would return. But it didn't end there. Observers noticed the company's corporate site was loaded with DEI and pride initiatives, including a campaign called Bringing the Porch to Pride, complete with rainbow rocking chairs and sponsorship of pride parades. Boy, sound like Disney? Sound like every other major corporation over the past decade? It's weird. It's almost like there's this underlying agenda to do the exact same thing to every cultural institution out there. Oh, that's just a crazy conspiracy theory. That page and the entire DEI section has now been deleted. In its place, a vague culture and belonging statement that avoids any explicit political language. Wow, it's almost all the general audiences want, all the general common sense customers out there want, is you just stay out of politics and deliver us some good food. Cracker Barrel's decision to ditch DEI likely stems from three factors. The people who actually eat at Cracker Barrel, families, travelers, retirees, and working class diners, weren't asking for DEI reports or rainbow rocking chairs. They wanted fried chicken, biscuits, and a brand that reminded them of tradition. The backlash made that clear. Yes, once again, that modern audience you chase doesn't actually buy your stuff, or in this case, eat at your restaurant. High-profile figures, including President Donald Trump, criticized the logo move and highlighted the larger issues and corporate America chasing the woke approval at the expense of its base. Conservative activists like Robbie Starbuck made DEI a centerpiece of their critique, framing it as proof of how out of touch leadership had become. And it's one of them situations where we've been talking about this for quite a long time, right? By covering Marvel and by covering Hollywood, we knew this DEI stuff was not going to sell, right? You hire people based on immutable characteristics that are not qualified for the jobs, and guess what? You're going to get a bunch of rebrands that people don't like, a bunch of rebrands at refreshes, reboots, and all this other kind of garbage, and a bunch of storytelling that literally makes no sense and flops with a general audience. Don't believe me? Look at the tens of billions of dollars of Marvel has lost over the last few years. And shout out to Robbie Starbuck out there doing the Lord's work, pointing out that, hey, guess what? It's all gone. Bye-bye. Poof. I love it. Let's just go over this real quick. Major victory to report. After a week running our pressure campaign, Cracker Barrel finally caved and removed their LGBTQ and DEI page. And this wasn't a boycott. Nobody was calling for a boycott. It was literally just people making their voices heard. Let this be a message to all companies. It is now socially unacceptable to promote trans causes or DEI, and it's unacceptable to use our money for pride events. You could be next if you embrace wokeness. Now is the time to fix it. Conservative customers will no longer fund companies who use our money to violate our values. Just be neutral on politics and social issues. You don't need to parrot our politics. Just stay out of politics and focus on your core business. That's the path to greatness. Look how well it's worked for all of the most successful video games over the last few years. Hey, Deadpool and Wolverine, the only successful Marvel movie they've had since Endgame, arguably, the one that's the #1 billion-dollar R-rated movie ever. Yeah. Did that have a bunch of politics and DEI diversity nonsense being shoved down your throat constantly? No, it had a bunch of cool heroes that fans love having a great time. And yeah, the most successful R-rated movie ever and like the third most successful Marvel movie ever. So yeah. First 3 screenshots are yesterday. 4th is today. Check for yourself at the website. It's my pleasure to leave you all another win for those of us who want sanity. Many more to come. Amen to that. Cracker Barrel's logo change immediately hurt investor confidence. With a tumbling stock price, management couldn't afford another self-inflicted wound. Removing DEI content was a way to signal that the company is refocusing on what actually sells: comfort, food, and nostalgia. Strange concept. It's almost like what Cracker Barrel's core business that has worked for generations at this point. If you keep doing it, it still works. I know. Strange concept. It's almost like the world hasn't really changed as much as what all the insane activists have thought it has. It's almost like they live in a bubble and not reality. Echo chamber, anybody? Echo, echo, echo. This isn't Cracker Barrel's first cultural war moment. In the 90s, it faced national criticism over internal politics. By the 2000s, it had swung in the other direction, chasing approval from progressive watchdogs and scoring high on the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index. Yes, God forbid in the 90s you be in favor of conservative values, because back then, before we had all the social media so the normal people could actually push back and make their voices heard, that's right, the corporate media back then, just like it is now, was all in bed for politically correct politics. Color us shocked there. It's almost like they've never really changed. And that's why there's all these independent media organizations out there now constantly replacing them. But like Target and Bud Light before it, Cracker Barrel has now discovered that chasing points with activists doesn't pay the bills. The CEI might make headlines in boardrooms, but it doesn't fill dining rooms. The removal of Cracker Barrel DEI content isn't just a one-off housekeeping change. It shows how much power customers still have. When corporations push identity politics over their own heritage, they risk losing everything. How'd that work out for Bethesda? How's that worked out for our dear sweet Assassin's Creed Shadows? How'd that work out for Ubisoft, boys and girls? Yeah, Tencent owns them now. Cracker Barrel's retreat is also part of a growing trend. Once invisible brands like Disney, Bud Light, and Target have taken hits after leaning into progressive activism. Cracker Barrel appears to be learning from their mistake, albeit the hard way. Lightyear, anybody, boys and girls? By scrubbing its DEI and pride content, the company is signaling its return to tradition. Whether it holds to the promise or slips back into chasing approval from activist groups will determine if this is a true course correction or just damage control. And let's stop right there for a second as well. Because at the end of the day, that falls on us. That responsibility is on our shoulders to burden, right? Because we failed as a culture. We failed as our duty to God to be good stewards of this earth. And that includes being good stewards of its culture. And letting all of this DEI and pride stuff, all of these works of the devil, all of this evil into our corporations and thinking, oh, well, it's just them. It won't affect us. They'll never go after our kids. It's our fault. We failed in our jobs as being good stewards, as being good watchers on the wall. So it's not just on the corporations to not slip back into this because they're stupid. They're going to try it again. It is on our job to be good watchers on the wall and hold their feet to the fire, to never let a single inkling of this evil in again. It has to be purged like the heresy it is, because you even let a little chaos in and you see exactly what it is blossomed into. Purge the heretic, purge the heresy, burn it all out from your corporations, and never allow it to take root again. Cracker Barrel thought swapping its logo and pushing DEI initiatives would make it modern. Instead, it triggered a revolt. Customers don't want corporate lectures or rainbow rocking chairs. They want the brand they've always known. And it's the exact same thing across all of it. Whether it be Cracker Barrel, that's why I say it's the same spirit of the age, right? I could make these exact same arguments whether I was talking about politics, whether I was talking about the restaurant business, whether I was talking about the retail business, or whether I was talking about Hollywood. Hollywood is just, the superhero thing is just kind of my niche. I love these guys. I need these stories to pass on to my children. Just like I want to be able to take my 6 kids to Cracker Barrel and have it look like Cracker Barrel. Because at some point this would have trickled down to the food. It always does. It always starts out as virtue signaling. And then you end up with an Ubisoft busted and broken game like Star Wars Outlaws that launch busted and broken. And I would argue Cyberpunk was the exact same way because of how many activists they had hired inside of that company. Fortunately enough, eventually they fixed it and we got a great game out of it. But look, much like what we've seen with Marvel, much like what we saw with old DC, much like what we saw with the comic book industry as a whole, when you chase these activists, when you ignore your core audience, when you ignore your core fan base and try to change things to remake yourself in some kind of modern image, it always blows up in your face. And that's the definition of insanity. Doing the exact same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And throughout our corporations, throughout our institutions, we have seen that spirit of the age's insanity take root and take hold and watch them fall down the exact same path over and over and over again. Many of these corporations, whether it be Disney, Marvel, DC, Bud Light, Cracker Barrel, Target, or any of the rest of them out there that have walked down this path of hell and evil that is the diversity, inclusion, and equity activism possessed by the spirit of the age folks out there. They probably got bought off by their empathy, right? The path to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, your good intentions denied the morals and the values that made your companies and made your stories beloved to generations out there. And Cracker Barrel has now learned that lesson. They have changed their tune, and it's all because of customers and fans like you that have made your voice heard. Never, ever again be silent. Never, ever again abandon your duty to be a good steward of our culture. Because at the end of the day, this was our fault. We let the monsters in. Fortunately enough, there was a remnant left because God always promised there would be. There was enough of a remnant left and enough of common sense out there to wake up people on the sidelines, to push back, to show that yes, indeed, after all, common sense is still the majority. And we decide what succeeds and what fails, not the activist and not the evils of Lucifer himself. God is still on his throne in heaven. 2 + 2 still equals 4. And go woke, go broke was proven true once again with Cracker Barrel. Now they've changed their tune. And now it's on us to make sure this never happens again. A big shout out to all of our subscribers and members out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have not already.